Hi, my name is Jeff Rhodes, and welcome to another video on Office 365, inspired by my book, which you see there. And today I want to just go back to the one I did a week ago on Power BI with a SharePoint list. So I'll show you what the issue was, but real quick, cover a lot of Power BI and other things in the book, and you can get it on Amazon. See it's there, and you can go down and look, see how it's doing today. So not too bad, number 6 in SharePoint books today, so appreciate that. So let's review where we were last time in case you didn't watch that video. And then we'll see what we want to do, because I ran into this problem this week based on the real kind of big one that I did a sample of for this. So what we have is we've got a list, awards and spends here with 2 content types. So you can see if I had new, I got a spend and an award. And then where the gist of the problem comes in is on this contract. So we have a lookup column. And so you got a separate list called contracts with like requirement name and so forth and the type. So just we have some new data. I added one thing already, but let's add another one. So let's just try it. So let's do I just add an award, so let's add a spend. And so we say, I don't know, we need, let's say Camtasia license. Since I'm using Camtasia, give them a little shout out here, and we'll say that's the lookup to the contractor. So we'll say it's software licensing. And let's just say it's for next year, so we have a little different data, and I'll say it's $300. And we save. So we've got these, and this is what we're trying to validate in Office 365. I mean, in Power BI in particular. So let's go look at my Power BI that I did there. So this is one we had last time. And you see I have awards and spends, and I did a page 1, which just basically talked about how we can link in. If we use like the new version, we don't have all the problems, but it didn't work. This original one is on premise SharePoint. We can't use like the new in beta. So I'm just going to get rid of that because that's not really relevant. And what we did is we did the 2 content types with a page filter, and then we expanded it out a little bit on the transform data. So let's go look at that again. And I'm going to get rid of this one because this was if we use the new beta one. And that's not the one we end up using, so we don't want to confuse things. So I called it Awards V1. And what we did is basically, let me get rid of all the steps here. So we brought it through, and we're going to notice this contract ID is going to be important in a minute. But we came through, and that lookup column data came through, and we said field values is text, and we could come up there and grab these. So what we did last time is grabbed all these columns, and like all the way really through there. Actually, yeah, that one, that was all the contract, and we renamed them and so forth. What happened this week with the one we had done some more work on, that SharePoint list, and in particular I switched some of the single line of text columns to a choice column, and somehow that made this whole thing when it refreshed. First of all, it took like 10 minutes to refresh what was not a very long list, and then it finally came back with every single line had an error, 243 errors. And I spent like half an hour just messing with it, trying to figure out how to get rid of the errors, and it just wouldn't work. And I wasn't even exactly sure what it was that it did until I finally tried each one in a new Power BI and had to basically delete all these in a row. So by the way, so let's talk about how we did that, because that's going to come in relevant. So if you get that kind of situation, come into the advanced editor and you'll bring up a new Power BI and just kind of use it. So basically what I did, let's just say we were doing that same thing. So we would cut this part out. Come on, where'd my cut go? Say I wanted to do the first half. Let's try that again. I'm quite sure I can't edit that right now. Let me pause. All right, resuming now. Not sure why I couldn't do it before, but it seems to be working. So I Control X here. And notice I get the comma at the end. It has the little squiggly showing that it's bad. And then this very last line has to be whatever the last line is above. So we have change type. We have to change it from change type 2 to change type 1. And if we did that and ran it, notice it would just get rid of all those lines. And let me go in and undo it. So remember, I put that in the clipboard. I can put our comma back in. Oh, of course, I'm having trouble with the paste again. There we go. Guess it was because I was on the bad line. And if I change this back to change type 2, I can get back to where I was. So let's go ahead and do that now. But how did I fix it? Well, the answer really is that another way we can do it is we can join these tables, these things. So let's try to do that. So first thing I want to do is I got to get rid of this expanded field text. And then you'll see that I get some errors because I did this in order and I want to keep these custom columns. So let's first just delete that and see the error that I get. And you'll see, oh, okay, these rename columns don't get it. This is again where we can go into the advanced editor and fix it. So what's happening here is, because I got a little blank line, but these rename columns are on this, they have all this stuff that I had renamed them after I had expanded them, so I don't really want them anymore. So let's see if I can highlight that. So the first thing we'll do is just delete. And I've got that problem again with the lines. I'm not sure why. There we go. So again, if I did that, notice what happens is it wants to tell us which line it worked at above. So this is going to have to be, instead of rename columns, it would be change type 1. So it's just or change type, it's just the line above it. So if we did that, it would work. But notice it's like, oh, current period of performance wasn't found. So what's going on is I actually did a bunch of those and I did one other column that I really needed. So that was kind of a drag. So let's go back and fix it a different way. And before we forget it, remember this will have to be this will be renamed columns here, because we're going to go back to the way it was. Rename columns 1. I'm not sure why it doesn't like that, but we'll figure that out. And what we want to do is just, if I scroll over, is get rid of all the ones that say field values as text. So see how those are field values as text. Those were all the columns that we were renaming after we expanded them. So we didn't want that. But there's the very last one that we wanted to keep. Current period of performance. Oh, and I see what it doesn't like. It doesn't like that I was missing a comma there. There we go. So see how I fix that without having to recreate it. So I say done. Ah. Nice. Now what I'm going to do, so I'm going to close and apply, and you'll see it's going to now break, I think. So actually it's going to apply these, and then I've used columns that aren't there, so I get all this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save it as a new name. So I'll just call it video join columns. So we're going to open that. Now I'm going to open up the old one so that we can see it, because it's going to be useful to refer to that, because unless you got a great memory, you'll come back and you can't really remember what you had there, because while this is open, and let me go back to it. There we go. So you see it's just blank, you can't even see what it used to be. So that's kind of a hassle. I don't need this anymore. But if we open up the old one, and I gotta make it smaller, there we go. We can see what it was, contract type and so forth. So, all right, so let's do one more thing. So let's go back. I'm gonna grab this URL because we're gonna wanna add our contracts column directly, or contracts list. Oops, I guess I don't need to do it that way. We'll get data here. We'll type in SharePoint. SharePoint online list. And for this one, we're sticking with the 1.0 because, as I mentioned, the 2.0, that's where I was talking about, doesn't work on an on-premise list, at least the ones that we had. So I'm going to pick that contracts column, and I'm going to go straight into transform data. Oh, darn it, I did this in the wrong version. Not now. Oh, my bad. Let's try that again. Sorry, I wanted to do this in our new one that I could tell because I had that other list that I had deleted now. So let's do this again. Leave it as 1.0. Grab contracts. Oops. There we go. Now that's better. All we have are these awards V1 and contracts. And I'm not going to rename anything. And this actually came back all right, but notice we have the requirements name and the office and so forth. So I'm just going to go ahead and close and apply. And then what we do is we have to join them. So you're familiar with that if you've done some Access or SQL Server or Oracle queries, but that's what this model comes in. So you might remember I mentioned to look at the contract type. Oh, and it looks like it kind of figured it out on its own anyway, but let me delete that so that we can do it on our own. So what you would normally have to do is you'd have to figure that out for you. So it had a contract ID, and if you look, you'd have to go look at the data. Actually, let's just go do that real quick. So that's how you figure it out. So if you come over here, you had this contract ID, and notice it's 1 or 3 are the only ones that we're using. And if you go over to contract, you can see its ID is actually those same two things, 1 and 3. Looks like we didn't use number 2 for whatever reason. So you can kind of look more at the data to be sure that's right. And then what you come in is you just draw a line between the contract ID and the actual ID on there. And what does that do for you? Well, now instead of grabbing the data from awards only, you can go over to contracts. So if you might remember that this one, if I go back to my original thing, that was contract, and we'll discard these changes because we don't want them. If we click over here, and I don't need this guy, this one was the contract type. And then the one next to it was contract year. So we can go back in and say, okay, we got contract type. We go into contracts and grab this contract type, and now it works well. Okay, same kind of thing. We're missing title, and then I believe this is requirement name, but we'll check it in a minute. So we come in, can make this a little wider so that we can see it. And we just drag in the requirement name, and that fixes that one. So let's go over and check it out, make sure it was. Yeah, we had contract name, which we named it, but was actually requirement name. So it's software licensing. Yeah, so it's got it in there. Notice that we have 3 items because we set that up. Yeah, I put a little bit more data in it. So let's go fix the spends one. So we have the exact same problem here. So we can go back in and go over to spends. And that was the contract type. So we'll put that in. Again, we're in contract, so we can just say contract type here. Oops, I gotta click on it. And this guy, I think, was the requirement name again. There, and we've fixed it. Let's refresh our data. And so that's exactly what I had to do for the other one. It's actually probably a better solution because we didn't have to rename our columns and go to that extra step, which turns out to take a little bit of time to expand it as fields and text. So in this case, joining the 2 tables did a better thing. And one other actually thing that was kind of nice is now I can actually add some data on the contracts themselves in the same one. So let's finish off by doing that. So I'll add a table here just to put all our data in, and then we'll do a couple things. So let's stick with contracts here. So really we want like the requirement name, we want the requesting office, we want the representative, we want the contract type, and yeah, that's about it. Let's see. Let's go look over our SharePoint, see if there's anything else too interesting in contracts. So we'll go back over here. Oh, the description. And then, the content. Yeah, we don't care about the content type it's doing. Yeah. So we pretty much the description's the only thing left. So let's go back over here and we'll throw the description in. Where the description is, maybe coming through as title. Sometimes you get that where, yeah, it looks like we renamed description, title to description. It didn't do it, so we could have come in and set those up there. So let's go throw a couple quick pie charts in here. Maybe there. There we go. And we'll just do the. We'll do it by the requesting office, so we'll put that in there, and we'll do the number. I won't bother to rename it, but you know how I rename that to the number of items, and we'll maybe copy that and paste it. Change this to representative, so we can see like who's doing what. So if I wanted to see what Buddy Holly was doing, we could limit that in. Last one I'll normally do is a quick card, and we'll throw that on there as well. Count. Again, I'll rename one of these. So. Didn't take, let's try it again. Yeah, so that allows us to, and we'll rename this to contracts. So it gives us a better thing too. Now we have our awards, our spins, we can look right at the contracts themselves, play with them, and do that all by a join kind of thing. So let's do one more thing. One I didn't really like that all the contracts are the same type. So let's go back, let's change our data just to see. So we'll, we had this number 2 as a type, but we never did it. So let's just come in. Let's go back to awards and spins, and let's just limit it. Let's take one award, and we'll change the type to computer support, and we'll take one of the spins and do the same. There we go. We'll test our thing. Let's refresh our data. There we go. So we get 2 different types of things. Same thing here. So we kind of moved it around a little bit. That also helped us with our year. So, all right. Well, hope that was useful on how to join 2 tables. I'll look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thanks.